All right, so you want to talk SQL. Huh. I get it. It can seem a little like, I don't know, a secret code that only data scientists have the key to.
Right.
But honestly, it's way more accessible than you might think.
It really is.
That's what we're diving into today, actually. We're cracking open this book, SQL for Data Science, an introduction.
Yeah.
We're going to break down the basics, figure out why it matters, even if you're not, building databases from the ground up.
Absolutely. And especially in today's world, data is everywhere, right? It's like everywhere you turn.
Oh, absolutely.
So understanding SQL, even just a little bit, I mean, that's a superpower.
Seriously. And the book really hammers home how user-friendly it is. Like, they even call the commands common sense commands, which, honestly, as someone who's always been a little intimidated by lines of code, that's pretty reassuring.
It is. It is.
But, okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
what exactly are we talking about when we say SQL? Help me out here.
So SQL, it stands for Structured Query Language, which sounds very technical, but basically it's a way to talk to databases. You ask questions, you give instructions, and boom, you get the information you need.
Okay, so it's like a language for having a conversation with data.
Precisely.
I like that.
And what's really cool is that even with a little bit of this language under your belt, you can already start doing some really powerful things.
Yeah, like what? Give me an example.
So imagine you're trying to pull up a specific customer's purchase history or analyze sales trends, that kind of thing. SQL lets you do that.
See, that's what I'm talking about, practical stuff.
Exactly. Real-world applications.
Now, the source we're using, it does a really good job of explaining relational databases, which is kind of like the playground for SQL, right?
Right. Yeah.
So picture this. You've got a table called country populations. Pretty self-explanatory.
Makes sense.
You get your list of countries, their populations. Simple enough.
Yep.
Now imagine another table called, say, country temps. Same idea. Countries, average temperatures, boom.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they both have that shared country column, it's like they're linked.
Right. They're related.
Exactly. Hence, relational database.
It all connects, and that's super important for data analysis because now you're not just looking at population numbers in isolation. You can see how they relate to climate, maybe uncover some interesting trends.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Right. Exactly. You start to see the bigger picture.
And speaking of putting things together, the book talks about this acronym, CRUD. Sounds kind of harsh at first, but it makes sense.
What is it?
Create, read, update, delete. Basically everything you can do with a database.
Okay, got it. The whole shebang.
But here's the thing. Data scientists, they spend most of their time in one specific area.
Yeah. Out of those four, which one are we focusing on?
The read part.
Yeah.
It's all about pulling insights from that data, finding those aha moments that can actually drive decisions.
Makes sense. It's like being a detective, right? You're sifting through the evidence, trying to crack the case.
Exactly. And while some companies might have whole teams dedicated to the whole create, update, delete part,
Right. Your database gurus.
even if you're not the one building it,
Yeah.
understanding that foundation, knowing where the data came from, how it's organized, that's huge.
Oh, it's essential. It's like context, right?
Yeah.
You need that background to really understand what the data's telling you.
Exactly. Like imagine a chef trying to make a dish without knowing anything about the ingredients.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. You got to know what you're working with. Okay, so we've got our database all set up, but like how do we actually use this thing in the real world? Like what's the point?
Right. Got to put it into practice.
Exactly. So the book, it lays out 4 main ways the SQL comes in handy for data science. You can query for insights, business reporting, targeted treatments. That one sounds kind of sci-fi. We'll get to that. And then, of course, there's machine learning.
All essential stuff. Let's break them down a bit. So, querying for insights. Say you're working for this online store, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And you're trying to figure out why some products are just selling like crazy while others are just sitting there.
You got to move that inventory. I get it.
Exactly. So with SQL, you can pull up all this data, purchase history, demographics, you name it, and start connecting the dots to see what's really driving those sales.
Okay, so it's like detective work, but with data. I like it.
Exactly. And those insights, they're gold for businesses. I mean, they can use that information to tweak their marketing, maybe even refine their products.
So it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about making smarter decisions.
100%. And that actually segues nicely into our next application, business reporting. Remember those days of like manually updating spreadsheets?
Don't even remind me. My eyes still twitch just thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, SQL can automate a lot of that. Imagine generating sales reports, inventory updates, all that fun stuff, but with way less headache.
Sign me up.
Right. streamline that workflow.
Now, what about this whole targeted treatments thing? Sounds a little intense.
It's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. Think of it like this. You want to make sure your message is reaching the right people at the right time.
Makes sense. No point shouting into the void.
Exactly. So let's say you're promoting, I don't know, a new line of running shoes. Instead of just blasting everyone on your email list, you can use SQL to pinpoint customers who, like, bought similar products before, or maybe they've checked out your fitness blog posts.
Okay, so it's about being strategic with your marketing. Hitting the bullseye, so to speak.
Precisely. Maximum impact. And then, of course, we've got the machine learning aspect, which is huge these days. And, machine learning models, they're hungry for data.
Right. Gotta feed the beast.
Exactly. And not just any data. It has to be good quality, clean, organized. And that's where SQL swoops in again.
Okay, so it's like the sous chef of the data world.
I like that analogy. SQL preps the data, makes sure it's all ready to go so the machine learning model can work its magic.
So you're saying that even though machine learning gets all the hype, SQL is like the unsung hero working behind the scenes.
100%. It's
Yeah.
the foundation that makes all that cool stuff possible.
It's funny. I used to think of data as this like cold, impersonal thing,
Yeah.
But the way you're explaining it, it's like data has stories to tell if you know how to listen.
It's true. Data tells a story, and SQL is the language that lets you understand it.
I like that. And speaking of stories, the book we're looking at today, they actually use a really cool example to bring this all to life.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
So they talk about this scenario where, let's say you're Rolex, right? And you're on the hunt for a new brand ambassador, someone who just screams luxury achievement.
Okay, makes sense, right. Rolex, high-end brand, looking for someone to match.
Exactly. So naturally, they're looking at professional athletes, right?
Sure, it's the best of the best. Who else embodies that drive for excellence?
Exactly. But obviously, not just any athlete is going to cut it for a brand like Rolex.
Right, they're going to be picky, got to maintain that image.
Exactly. So they're looking for someone at the top of their game, someone with a net worth, get this, over $250 million. Big money.
Okay, now we're talking. So how do they narrow it down?
Well, that's where SQL struts in, ready to show off. So the book gives this sample data set, right? They call it player details. And it's got names, sports, net worths, the whole 9 yards for a bunch of superstar athletes.
Like, give me some names. Who are we talking here?
Oh, just your casual lineup of Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Sachin Tendulkar, Yao Ming, LeBron James, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, so like the best of the best, the titans of their sports.
Exactly. A-listers, all of them.
Okay.
But now the question is, how do we sift through these all-stars and find the perfect Rolex match?
Right. Got to be selective. Can't just pick anyone.
Exactly. So here's where SQL works its magic. They use this super elegant query. It starts with select first name, last name. Basically telling SQL, hey, we want the athletes' names in our results.
Okay, so far so good. What's next?
Then we got to tell it where to look, right? So it's from player details. Simple enough.
Makes sense. So we're telling it which data set to search.
Exactly. But here's the kicker, the magic ingredient. Where net worth, $250.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. We're setting a very specific condition.
Boom. Just like that, SQL knows to filter out anyone who doesn't meet that ultra-exclusive wealth requirement. It's like having a personal assistant who can scan through mountains of data and hand you a perfectly curated shortlist in seconds.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So efficient. So who makes the cut? Give me the names.
Drumroll, please. Our SQL search has revealed 3 prime candidates: Roger Federer, LeBron James, and Lewis Hamilton. Talk about a power trio.
That's amazing. And to think we got there with just a few lines of code.
I know, right? Before diving into this, I would have thought you'd need some crazy complex algorithm, hours of number crunching. But SQL just swoops in, makes it look easy.
It's a game changer for sure. And the best part is it's not just for, finding rich athletes.
Right. It's like you said earlier, these concepts, they apply across so many different fields.
Absolutely. Any industry that deals with data, and these days that's pretty much everyone, can benefit from understanding even a little bit of SQL.
It's true. It's like a secret weapon for anyone who wants to unlock the power of data. And if you're listening to this, feeling that spark of curiosity, I highly recommend checking out SQL for Data Science, an introduction. It's a great starting point, super accessible.
It really is. It breaks it all down in a way that makes sense, even if you're not a tech whiz.
Exactly. And hey, while you're at it, here's a little something to chew on. We saw how SQL helped us find potential Rolex ambassadors based on net worth, right? But what about other factors? Brand alignment, global appeal, you name it. Could you use SQL to dig into that data, uncover even more insights? The possibilities are seriously endless. And that, my friends, is a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.